Hey, let's just take a look at Sequencer. If you've never used it before, this is a quick way to get up and running. Just first, you need something that you want to put in the sequence. So let's just download this guy, animated walking. And once you have him downloaded, you can just import and grab this guy walking and get it all in. It automatically creates a skeleton, so import. And that'll all import in, and it'll have all the textures and materials and animation connected to the proper skeleton. So let's just give that a second here. All right, so there he is, his skeletal mesh and the animation we want to use. So we're going to need a place for him to walk. So let's just make a plane in our level. I'll scale that up a bit and then just add a cube to make it fancy. So now I've got a nice fancy level here. And then we need to create a sequence. So in content, I just have a folder called shots, and then just right click, create a level sequence, and we're just gonna call that walking sequence, or SEQ for short. And then we're just gonna open that up, double click, and here we are in Sequencer. Now these things that we have created in our level, these are what are called possessable, because that's just a way of saying it lives in a level. But as we have our character in the scene, he may be in the first scene but not in the second one. So we don't want him in the level all the time. We want to spawn him into the level through the sequencer. So let's just go back to where we put our guy and grab the skeletal mesh, drag and drop it, not into the level, but into the sequencer. And you see it's got a little lightning bolt next to the logo. That's how you can tell that it's already spawnable. And so he just pops in at origin right there. And our lights are too bright, can barely see anything. Let's just bring that down 0.5. Or this is, yeah. So here's our guy, and if we want to animate him, the simplest way is just to go into transform, and here's our little plus signs where we can add keyframes. So you can just add a location keyframe, then move along a bit, and then just move him. But then if we move at all in our timeline, he's going to pop back into place. So if you want him to move, you have to set another key. Or the way that I like to work is just hitting this button so that it's auto keyed. So then next time I move him, it's just going to set a key automatically just for the value that changed. So whereas before I was setting a key for all of the location values, this time it just set one for the one that I changed. So cool, he's moving along, but his character isn't actually animating. So let's fix that. he is a skeletal mesh, so he already has an animation track, and we can just add the animation that's associated with him. So let's add that. Oh, that's not the right one. Let's add this. Okay, so here's a walking animation, and as it ends, he goes back into his bind pose. And we can just stretch that out and it'll loop. So now we have him walking, but he starts off slow. So that's because of the way the animation is interpolated. So we can get this curve into a better shape if we select just the values that we want to look at, and that's the y-axis. Select those points, and as I drag it out, you can see these are the different types of interpolation. I'll just have it as a linear interpolation, so he's not speeding up and slowing down. All right, so we've got a very basic walk. Now, if I wanted this animation to be faster or slower, you go to Properties, and it has a play rate, which is very easy to manipulate. You can just have him walking twice as fast by putting 2. And so now it plays that animation super quick. And we can just adjust the value in here, much easier than going back and setting a new keyframe. We can just have it increased quite a bit so that as he's walking faster, he's also animating faster. So cool. But what if we wanted to keep this going for a while? Obviously, we can loop the animation as much as we want, but he's gonna stop actually moving when he gets to here. So you can grab that same value in the graph editor and change the way it interpolates afterwards with these little buttons here that interpolate the infinity after and infinity before. So we can have infinity after as linear. So post infinity will just keep going. And you can scroll these little numbers here to stretch out your timeline. And the end point here, you can drag that out or set the button here. You can set the end point with these buttons down here, and then just have him walking for as long as you want. So cool. We can see that he's, well, hard to see with this in the way. Yeah, now you can see he just keeps on walking. So cool. Now we have him walking on forever. And let me spruce up this environment a bit. For some reason, this plane is not too visible. So instead, I'll just duplicate this cube and stretch it out for quite a while. That'll be good enough for what we're doing. Alright, so first he walks past this little box, and maybe then he walks past a tall box, and later on he walks past another little box. So that's our movie. Walks past this one, and then past that one, and then past another one. So this is all of our action that we want in this scene, but we're going to want to look at it from different angles. We could add our cameras in here, but I like to do it a different way and just have one sequence for all of my animation, for everything that's happening on the stage, and then go back here and add a new sequence, animation level sequence, and I'll just call this walking 01. So that'll be a shot number version 01, and so that'll be our first shot. So this sequence will be our stage performance, and this will be the camera we're looking at it through. So we can open that up, and our guy is gone because he was spawnable. He only existed in that other sequence. So we've got to bring him back somehow. And we're going to do that with a sub-scene track, which is just what it sounds like. It's a scene under the scene. So we can add our sequence, which is going to be walking sequence, and then it brings everything back just the way it was. We've got to extend our timeline again, but we can see that it's moving along just fine. So we can go ahead and create our camera in here by pressing this little camera button, and it's automatically creating a camera cut and a camera actor. Now, if we aren't looking through our camera, we can actually see the camera object, and then we can move it around and place it wherever we want. But it's actually a quite inefficient way of doing it, so we can position the camera while we're looking through it. You just got to press this little icon next to the camera, and then it shows you these nice black bars to show you that you're in cinematic mode. And then we can look around, find our guy, pile it over to the angle we want to see from, and that should be fine. And then we can animate this camera in here too. So starting at frame 0, we can set a key. Let's set a key for all the transforms. And then as we move along, we can wait about, let's go 3 seconds. And we can turn our camera, and then we can also move our camera. And then it's automatically setting that key in there. And so that's long enough for our first shot. And then we can just set our out point there. Cool. So go ahead and save that. It's going to ask us if we want to save our walking sequence too, because the two are connected. So it assumes you want to save them both. And let's just go ahead and do that. So cool, we've got our first shot, and we can do another shot that's going to pick up where this one left off. So the way I like to do that is you can just duplicate it, and it automatically updates your version number, and you can click in there and everything's the same. You can just stretch out the out point, set our in point right there, either by dragging or setting it, and then we're looking through our camera again. Maybe we don't want these keyframes anymore. We don't want these keyframes anymore. We can move our camera somewhere else. So maybe we're looking down from far away. It's approaching this tree or whatever it is. And that's all right. So let's just set our key and then move along another few seconds. And then we can move everything down. Very dramatic zoom. And then we can set our out point there. And just for fun and to show you how quickly you can make new versions, just duplicate again, click inside it, and set our new in point, set our new out point, and update our keyframes. And now we're going to see him walking away. So set a key, move along. Goodbye, walking man. We're going to miss you. So we can move our camera over here. And oh, see, it didn't set a key because I wasn't looking through it correctly. So got to make sure you're actually piloting the camera when you're trying to pilot the camera. So going back to here and setting our key, moving along, setting our key. All right, so now we've got our 3 shots. That's perfect. And now we want to put them all together. So create a new animation level sequence and call it walking edit version 1. And it's empty. But it's very easy to get our stuff in there. We just select shot 1, shot 2. Oh, I didn't rename these. They're just considered different versions. I'd like to call them shot 2 version 1 and oops, shot 3 version 1, rather than being multiple versions of the same shot. That's just proper naming convention. All right, got our empty level sequence open, so we're ready to grab it, move them all into this sequence, and then we can space them out accordingly. Really just arrange them however looks pretty. And then you can see it. It's all happening in here. And so this will be ready to review or render or whatever you need to do. And just keep in mind that he is still spawnable. So if you're outside of these shots for any reason, like if I leave a gap, we're going to be outside our camera and our guy is gone. Because all those things are spawnable within the sequence. So it's very convenient because you can keep everything consolidated inside the shots, which is where they belong. But if you notice anything is missing that should be in the level, make sure that you're putting it in the level. Yeah, so that's a very quick overview of how to get started making a few shots in sequencer and getting them into a little video. Thanks for watching. Hope it was helpful.